Okay, we have 4 cases for discussion. C8. Ms. Rhodes?
Good evening. My name is Wendy Rose with the Planning and Zoning Department. This property is located at 4507 and 4511 Vinson Drive. It is an undeveloped 8-lot subdivision platted for single-family purposes. It is zoned SF3 NP. Access is taken to Vinson Drive. One unique element of this area is that there's a railroad track that parallels Vinson Drive. It veers to the northwest as it approaches West St. Elmo, and then there is a non-operational spur that parallels the north portion of this tract. There is a religious assembly to the north, and then there are single-family residences to the north, the east, and south. The request is for SF6 NP zoning. The applicant intends to construct up to 19 standalone condominiums on approximately the site, which is 1.9 acres. The Austin Transportation Department has looked at the applicant's proposed driveway, which is on the south portion of the site, and they're recommending that the number of driveways be limited to 1 based on the unique geometry in this area. The staff is recommending this case. For SF6 zoning, we believe it's a reasonable option for residential infill. It's compatible with the adjacent single-family residences, and it acknowledges that this is a unique site that, based on its location across from the railroad tracks and the vehicular access issues and proximity to a religious assembly use. I want to point out 2 more things. One of which was some of you who have been up here for a few years may remember the first case. Mm-hmm. And that was in 2017, also for SF6CO, limited to 16 units. That was approved on second reading. It did not proceed to final readings, and so the zoning stayed as is at SF3. It just expired. And the applicant has met with the Southwood Neighborhood Association as well as the contact team prior to scheduling the zoning case.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay. Come on up, sir. Thank you, Ms. Rhodes.
Hello, I'm Paul Thiessen, the agent on record. This is Bruce, the engineer.
Perfect. You'll have 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Paul Thiessen, the agent on file, and Bruce Apperley, the engineer.
Okay, welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I brought a short presentation. I'm probably responsible for this type of zoning because I looked at the land. I'm an engineer for 30 years here in Austin, at least 30 years. And I said, this is the wrong zoning, the wrong type of use for what this land is. And so we proposed, you ready? Okay, a use like this, it's a single driveway onto Vinson. It's smaller houses, less expensive, lots of green space. The impervious cover and the building coverage is similar to SF3, but it's SF6. And so I'm here with Paul, who's the owner, to explain anything if there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you. We'll take questions after we hear from the opposition as well. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say something with this. I mean, we did have a meeting with the neighborhood association and everything, and we didn't have any pushback on the design of the layout of this. We feel going to the single drive, it's a safety concern, with that flow. I've read all the backlogs of y'all's previous meeting, why this got pushed back. His concern was water flow and traffic. We have addressed those, I feel, with this design. With our retention plans, it actually controls the amount of water goes in and comes out, and actually, has a better flow rate. So if there's been ever concerns of that before. We've addressed a lot of that. So those are just two of the main things that popped out at me that I wanted to address up front.
Great, thank you.
Right.
So we have one person signed up to speak against, and then you'll have 3 minutes to respond to that.
All right.
Ray Collins, so you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Ray Collins. I'm speaking this evening as chair of the South Manchac Neighborhood Plan Contact Team, which voted unanimously to oppose this zoning change as per your backup. Quoting the staff report, zoning changes, could I have that slide, please? There you go. Quoting the staff report, zoning changes should promote compatibility with adjacent and nearby uses. Well, there it is, folks, solid SF3 zoning. There is no higher density zoning anywhere. SF6 zoning is as compatible with the SF3 in our residential core as oil is with water. The only non-residential use is the adjacent church to the north, and we all know churches are a use allowed in any zoning. Again, quoting from the staff report, the rezoning should be consistent with an adopted study, the future land use map, or an adopted neighborhood plan. In case those of you who served with Trinity White are having deja vu all over again, here she is in 2016 pointing out that page 52 of the South Manchac Neighborhood Plan states that SF6 uses should be conditional and may be appropriate when located next to more permissive districts or intensive uses. There are no more permissive districts or intensive uses as per the previous slide. Quoting page 7 of the staff report, South Austin Combined Neighborhood Plan Area Policy and text support townhouse and condo residencies in the residential core as long as they are compatible with the neighborhood character of the area. There are no townhouse and condo residences in our residential core near this property. In terms of infrastructure, why is this property only suitable for SF3 zoning at most? Here's the drainage infrastructure for the Vinson Drive property. You can see it goes straight to Williamson Creek. The black diamond in the map on the left represents the header. And on the Flood Pro map on the right, you can better see where the header empties into the Williamson Creek Greenbelt at the end of Englewood Drive. The LCR rain gauge outlined in black is just upstream of this property. When that gauge registered 12.9 inches of rain in 24 hours, this is what happened. Kevin Shunk of Watershed Protection tells us that this is now a 100-year flood. Yes, a development will be permitted, and yes, flooding is only going to get worse until the city provides flood mitigation infrastructure. Continuing with the infrastructure, the staff report gives this property a walkability score of 25, very car dependent. Would you want to walk along this substandard road? How about biking? You're looking at Bike Route 31. When I was commuting by bike, I told everyone who would listen to avoid this section of Vinson Drive by carrying their bikes across the railroad tracks where they cut Lansing Drive down there in the lower left of this map. At most, this property is suitable only for SF3 zoning. And finally, I want to respond about the driveways. Since the applicant has made a point of the hazard of 2 driveways with SF3 zoning, I'll point out that DSD would not permit a second driveway for the existing SF3 subdivision plat, which you see here, the driveway being at the south end only. Likewise, Austin Transportation Department is not going to permit a second driveway as per your staff report and email correspondence between Mrs. Rhodes and myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Applicant and engineer and owner, you can tag team again. You'll have 3 minutes.
I want to address drainage. We are providing detention that will reduce the flow leaving the site to existing or below existing. I don't know where that photo was that showed all the flood, but I don't think that's Vinson. right by us. We are putting all new inlets in and taking care of all the drainage. We are also putting sidewalk along Vinson so people don't have to walk next to the pavement. As far as the second driveway goes, we've had HDR Engineering design a second driveway location. It has not been reviewed by the City of Austin, but if we have to use it, we believe that HDR has done a good job doing that. So, is there any other question? Paul?
Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. No, not just yet. Okay, so those are all the speakers. Is there a motion to close public hearing? All right, motion by Commissioner Shea, second by Commissioner Kenny. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Question, Commissioner Yanes Pulido.
Thank you. And what is the total number of units that are proposed?
19 units.
And what is the, those are typically close to 1,500 square feet?
13 to 14.
13 to 400 square feet. And what will be the price range on those units?
From 400 to 450.
Okay. Do you know the average home price in that area, the surrounding?
Actually, was just looking at a market analysis today, and it was averaging anywhere from 400 to, I saw one as high as 522 for 1,300 square feet. And it was sold at 619 of this year.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, other questions? Commissioner Kenny?
Do we have anybody from Austin Transportation here? Great. So do we need to introduce?
Yeah,
For the record?
go ahead and introduce
Upal Barua, Austin Transportation Department.
Great, thank you. So I noticed in the transportation section of the backup that you guys looked at the right-of-way requirements that are in the street network table in the ASMP. That is great, but I didn't see the fact that this is about a quarter mile from the transportation priority network down South First, and it's one of the metrics in goals within the ASMP is to add more residents within a half mile of the transportation priority network. So I was just wondering, is that an analysis that we can start getting incorporated along with the right-of-way dedication?
Yeah, definitely. But just looking at the number of trips that this particular development could generate, we didn't feel that the impact is going to be significant enough because it's only like 19 units.
Sure. Yeah. I just in the ASMP we have laid out the transit priority network, and we've said we want more people living in this area, and this falls within that area. And so I think that's something that's really relevant for us to see when considering a change that might add more residents to the area. So I would just love to see more of that just stated in the backup in terms of, is this an area that we've targeted in our mobility plan for additional residents? Because it is. So I would request that we start seeing that in the transportation section.
Sure, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Shaw? Who's your question for?
It's for Austin Transportation Department.
Perfect.
So I do agree this is within the half mile that we want to build more density, but how would you describe the connectivity? Because I saw this had a very low connectivity score, and I think half mile is fine, but we have to have the connectivity to that corridor. So how would you describe the connectivity from this site to the corridor where we're trying to promote more transit options?
As Wendy mentioned, this particular site is very unique. It's kind of landlocked. We don't believe that there is additional opportunity for additional connectivity because the way it is located and connected to the network. So the only way we could connect the site is through one driveway because there are some geographical constraints that poses some safety issues, specifically the side distance to the driveway is constrained. So that's why we had to limit the number of driveways or any additional connectivity that we could provide or the applicant could provide.
Commissioner Shaw, I did measure it. It's 0.28 miles walk along the streets, but the backup notes there's not a lot of sidewalks there.
Commissioner Shea?
I have a question for the applicant. So my question has to do with what was presented before versus what is presented now. What was different? Because I was looking at the backup, it seems like the design was a little bit different. And also, I'd like to know how, I guess talk a little bit about the units and how it fits the character of the area. I mean, because I think some of the design changes address that and talk about heights, forms, massing, things like that.
Right. A lot of it, so it will, everything will be up to 2-story, nothing higher than that. Of course, we won't have any 3 stories. If you look at the setbacks that we have from the back neighbors, opposed to the other one, it had the other one slammed up right against that line. We're actually giving everybody a little more space between the back neighbor and that dwelling up front. The location of the entryway, we're going to have like a gated to where you can pull off to the street in case you decided you went to the wrong place. You could do a turnaround. We'll have a turnaround against that big tree. There's a big tree right there. That's a great tree. Turn around in the corner, I'm sorry. Okay. The overall development, there's a lot of new houses going up in that area. We're not going to go type of extreme. We're going to be inclusive of the neighborhood, which we listen to the neighborhood people, having the trail there that it has access to everybody, a back gate, a front gate with access if people wanted to come through. Nothing extreme. Something that goes with the flow. I think the design, another big thing was, like we talked about, is the entrance and the control of the water flow. The way before, I didn't agree with the site before. It just looked real clunky. You can throw a whole bunch of duplexes up there if you want to, but this way these are individually freestanding, and the way they're going to flow and the use, and then the impervious coverage is actually at 43%. So we're we can have up to 53%. So we're actually saving there. So we're trying to maximize the land use and fit the development. Like you've heard everybody say, it's kind of an odd landlocked the way it is. So the design with Bruce and our architect have come up with this, I think, flows with the neighborhood, keeping within that price range of what was asked before. I'm not trying to put $1 million condos in here, stay within the average range and the square footage.
So you mentioned something about a trail. Can you expand a little about the trail? Then you said the access of it. Is it public? I mean, is that an amenity type thing for the area? I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand your development.
I'm trying to understand what Paul was trying to say, but I think he was talking about the sidewalk along Vinson.
Gotcha.
That if the railroad track ever becomes a city trail, it will tie into that sidewalk.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other? Commissioner Hempel, go ahead.
Hi, this is a question for the applicant. So I'm curious how, I'm looking at the site plan now, how the people who live in the units are supposed to access the sidewalk that will be along Vinson. Will they have to walk along the street to go all the way out to the main entrance to then access the sidewalk? Or is there plans from the individual units, at least at certain points, to be able to cross and not have to make that long walk, which will discourage walking?
The site is fairly green, open. We haven't actually talked about building a sidewalk from the driveway, but we could if we had to. And that would take them to Vinson from there.
Any other commissioners? Go ahead.
I had heard a community concern around a heritage tree where the driveway is proposed.
Sure, Commissioner Liaison Andrew Rivera. It's line is probably the second time.
Oh, sorry.
I'll allow a brief question. Go ahead.
Oh, that was all.
Okay.
Yes, that tree is definitely going to be protected as a heritage tree. Yes. We are only proposed, I think, 2 small trees that will be removed from the lot, and those have already been reviewed. And I mean, we're not Yes, we're saving everything we can on that lot. Does that answer your question?
Commissioner Anderson,
Move approval, staff recommendation.
is there a second? Second by Commissioner Shea. Discussion or actually questions, clarifying questions for the motion maker?
Can I speak to it?
Go ahead.
Sure. So I think this is just, I love these cases that just remind us how terrible our current land development code is. This is a great one. Thank you. Thank you. I'll let you know if we have any questions, guys. So putting 19 homes here, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I hear the folks talk about, compatibility, what's already on the ground. What's on the ground in the nearby area, I just looked it up. It looked like it was built in 1961 when Austin's population was about 187,000 people. Our needs have changed. The biggest thing that would be incompatible for this area is new SF3, so it just doesn't make sense in any way to me. So with that, unless we're going to allow for folks to build more homes and smaller homes, then we're just going to continue to price everyone out. So this makes good sense if we pass it.
All right, thanks. So we'll mostly deliberate up here, so you guys can have a seat. Thanks. It's a simple motion. We don't have to have any clarifying questions, I don't think. Is there anyone speaking in opposition to the motion? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just simply have a concern for the sort of gray area around transition zones and corridors. And so while I certainly support increased density where it makes sense, at the scale it makes sense, given that this neighborhood falls just at the line or outside of that quarter-mile zone, I think it's important for us to consider the other aspects like connectivity, as well as just the impact on the surrounding neighbors, because I do think that there is an intention from council and from the comprehensive plan to densify along the corridors, but also maintain that balance with the neighborhoods. So that's my general concern here.
Thank you. Commissioner in support? Commissioner Shea?
So I think compared to the previous design, I mean, this new development here definitely takes effort to try to fit in more with the surrounding area. Now, instead of units that are attached, these are all detached units. The other thing is when you look at the site plan, you look at the homes right next to it, and if those ever get redeveloped as SF3, they're going to be pretty massive. They're going to be huge, or they're going to be duplex, and they're still going to be much more expensive than what these units are. So bringing this new unit type here is going to bring more opportunity to have a more variety of grades of cost to the units. So I think it's a good mix to bring into the area. And when you have larger lots like this, especially as infill, the SS6 tool is a great opportunity to be innovative in how you deal with impervious cover and deal with water quality, water detention, than standard just going through with SF3. So that's my take.
Thank you. Second, Commissioner against? Commissioner Shaw?
So I think the connectivity for me is an issue. It's just outside, I guess, if Commissioner Kinney was right, if it's 0.28 miles, we're kind of looking at that kind of right on the cusp. I am all for, and we're going to work on really bolstering the density in transition zones. We know we have to do that. But outside of that, I just have a concern that, we really need to keep some of those SF3 areas intact. But again, we will work on getting as much density as we can in those transition areas. But I just think this is too landlocked to really justify this much density. So I'll just be voting against this one.
Okay, third, Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Kenny?
I support this thing. 0.28 miles. The research is a little ambiguous about quarter mile versus half mile for just frequent local service. But what I really wanted to point out is that we are upgrading this lot from, maybe a few units up to a number of units, and I guess is the full 20 unit count here is what we're looking at. One of the problems with our code is that we don't have any affordable bonuses available for single family zoning. None of these units will be income restricted affordable. And when you're talking about 20 units, that is a volume at which you really, based on my discussions with builders and developers, you really could achieve one or two or a handful of affordable units. And we do a lot of these upzonings from SF3 to SF5 or SF6 in these in areas that there's some difference of opinion, but some people feel that there should be more density there, but we're never getting affordable units out of it, and that's just a real bummer. And the economics do suggest that you could get a handful out of there. So it's something that I really like to look at in the land development codes, such as that we move away from upzoning to this number of units and maybe make it available as a bonus so that we are integrating in this terribly segregated city.
Third commissioner speaking against or neutral. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Shea. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so that motion passes 7-2.